It is time for your favorite Android podcast from the crew of blindandroidusers.com. Kick back, relax, and enjoy another fine episode from these Google fanboys and gals as they navigate Android from a blindness perspective. And now, here are your hosts.
Hello and welcome to episode 61 of the Blind Android Users Podcast. I'm Ed Green and I'm joined this week by my co-hosts Warren Carr, Austin Pinto, Fi Dunn and Doug Cameron. And we are coming to you on Saturday, February the 5th, 2022. We have our usual announcement section from Austin. We continue our tour through the network and internet settings. Then we have an app of the week from Warren, and that is Voice Recorder. And we close with highlights from Talkback. How are we all doing, folks? Warren, what's going on?
Thank you so much for asking, Ed. You know what? For the first time this winter, we are probably going to get 47 degrees, and I can't wait to finish this recording, take my head out there, and get bathed in the sunlight. Absolutely beautiful. My daughter and I went for a little walk yesterday. It was nice, although a little bit on the chilly side, 34 degrees, but the sun was peeking in and out, and it was a beautiful sight. So I am excited.
Nice. 47 still sounds kind of cold, but there we are. Austin, something in Mumbai?
Mumbai is still cold and nice. Winter is still on. One day is getting cold, one day is getting warm.
Cameron, Douglas, what's going on?
Not too much. Just, waiting to see if we actually get the melt like they're expecting it to tomorrow. Yeah, been pretty busy keeping up on, playing with Google, my Google stuff with Samsung Dex. Kind of awesome having a virtual machine on my phone. So, pretty good.
Fi, what's happening in London? I don't know because I'm in London too.
London's been sunny today. It's still quite cold, but sunny, and birds singing away and making us aware that spring is coming soon. I've been busy with various things for church services and for my studies to do with becoming a preacher. And I also bought a new Bluetooth keyboard this week, which is very nice because it'll let me connect to 3 different phones and switch between them really easily. Whereas before, with the keyboards I had, I always used to have to pair them all over again. And if I wanted to use a different phone, and that was very annoying. So I'm very happy now that I don't have to fiddle-faddle around with that anymore.
That is good. What keyboard's that?
It's an Artec folding Bluetooth keyboard. I have done a demo, which will, I'm sure, appear on one of these podcasts. It's only a short, like 8 minutes or something. I got it last week, and it's good.
Nice.
£30, so quite reasonable.
Yeah, very reasonable indeed. Thing about birds, though, I think they should probably branch out in the social media networks they frequent, because they'll only ever do Twitter, won't they?
Yeah. They mind you, they do have faces, so they could do Facebook.
They don't, though. They just tweet.
Yeah.
They could.
Yeah.
They don't. They are not tapping their full potential.
Well, we need a sort of pigeon post type of network for the pigeons, don't we?
We do. Austin, what's happening in the announcements?
In the announcements, we are very proud and honored to say that we have entered into a partnership with Tech Titbits. So if you don't know, Tech Titbits is a newsletter that comes out every week. It's a mailing newsletter, and it has articles on all topics related to technology regarding disability, blindness, sight restore, advocacy, JAWS articles, NVIDIA articles, Reaper, and everything. So you get a mixed bag of everything from tech to advocacy to everything. And also, our podcast is featured on every newsletter of Top 10 Tidbits. So if you want to catch us there, you can also subscribe to the newsletter. We'll have the link in the show notes, and then you can get the newsletter Thursday morning at 4 a.m. Eastern Time. So we are very proud and we thank the publishers of Top Tech Tidbits for accepting us as partners and also congratulate them on crossing 7,000 readership. That's all in the announcements.
Thanks very much, Austin. Yeah, do check that out. Now we turn to our perambulation through the Android settings categories, and we pick up where we left off last week with network and internet. We have a couple of demos to show you this week. Warren, is there anything you want to say about this before we dive in?
All I want to say is that it's a very important subject matter, and you boys, you're going to be doing some wonderful stuff today, showing us some of those things that we didn't get to last week, and I am glad that we're doing this.
The first demo we're going to have comes from Austin, and he's going to take us through the internet settings, so all about Wi-Fi networks.
So today I'm going to demonstrate how to manage your Wi-Fi network as we continue our
connected to Galaxy Watch 4
Wi-Fi
7B
and network settings section. So there are two ways to manage your networks. First is go to settings, then connectivity or internet or connections. Different OEMs say different things for the setting, and then you turn on Wi-Fi after you click on the Wi-Fi option, or you go to your quick settings panel, that is swipe down 2 times and find this. As you can hear, my phone is not connected to Wi-Fi, it's connected to LTE internet. So you want to long press on this.
Internet on, connected to Galaxy Watch 4, fixed connectivity, navigate up, Airtel, connected LTE, settings button,
Then you have your settings. This is LTE settings, this is not Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi, find and connect to Wi-Fi networks, off,
Currently
switch.
it's off. I want to
Wi-Fi.
double tap and select on.
Find and connect to Wi-Fi networks, on.
It will take some time.
Alliston Pinto.
So these are all the
Rabindranath Pad network.
Networks in my area.
Scan QR. Network preference. Saved network. Non-carrier data usage. 2. Navigate.
Now let me show you how to
Launcher.
manage
Episode
your
6.
Wi-Fi network, because I showed you how to turn it off or turn it on. To manage the Wi-Fi networks, you go into settings.
Top flag. Telegram. Skype. Settings. Setting. Search settings. Network and internet. Settings.
This
Network
demo
and internet.
is done on a Pixel 4a running the latest available version of Android 12 January security patch. This February security patch is not released as of this recording being published. So I'll click on
Internet. Network and internet. Alliston Pinto _ router 5G.
this should have been called Wi-Fi. I don't know why Google has decided to call it internet. So here in this window, you get
Navigate up. Fixed connectivity.
fixed connectivity.
Airtel. Settings. Wi-Fi. Find and connect to Wi-Fi networks. On. Switch. Alliston Pinto _ router
So you get the
5G
same
connected. Wi-Fi 6. Alliston Pinto.
things as
Navigate up.
the
Add network preferences.
quick
Wi-Fi
settings.
doesn't turn back on automatically.
We'll click on network preferences.
Setting. Navigate up. Turn on Wi-Fi automatically. Wi-Fi will turn back on near high-quality saved networks, like your home network. Off. Switch.
So if
Turn on
you
Wi-Fi
are on a
automatically.
limited mobile data, I would suggest that you turn this on. This what this will do is it will turn on your Wi-Fi automatically when you are in range of a high quality or a very strong signal strength saved Wi-Fi networks. If you are on a range of high quality strong signal unknown network, it will not turn on automatically.
Notify for public networks when automatic connection isn't available. On. Switch.
This will notify
for
you whenever
Install certificates.
public Wi-Fi is available. Install certificates. Some of these Wi-Fis, mainly the enterprise Wi-Fis, require you have some certificates to connect to them.
Wi-Fi Direct.
This is Wi-Fi Direct.
Network Preferences.
So this is all the network preferences. We'll go back.
Settings. Network. Save network. Non-carrier data. Scan QR code button.
You can scan the QR code on the router. Some routers have a QR code, or wherever there are public Wi-Fi is in shopping malls and all, on some boards there are QR codes. You can scan them and connect to them without entering your password or anything. Some public Wi-Fi networks you may have to enter your phone number and OTP, but otherwise you have to just scan the QR code.
Network Preferences.
Now,
Wi-Fi.
if you want to see a list of your saved networks, which Google backs up on your account, so even if you format the phone, the saved networks won't be lost.
Save networks.
You
13
click
networks.
on the save networks and you get a list of
Saved
all
networks.
your networks that you have ever connected to.
Navigate up. Other networks. Alliston Pinto _router. Alliston Pinto _router 5G. AO5. AO5 _5G. Secure network.
So these are some of the networks that I have connected to. There are lots more. I'm not going to go into all those lists. Now let us click on the Wi-Fi network that we are connected to, and let's explore what is in there.
Alliston Pinto _router 5GHz. Connected. What?
So as you
Settings.
heard, I'm on a
Network
5
details.
gigahertz Wi-Fi.
Navigate. Modify. Alliston Pinto _router 5GHz. Connected. Forget. Button. Forget.
If you are facing some connectivity issues, you can click on forget. This will forget the network, and then when you have to reconnect, you have to enter the password that is registered, or the password that is entered on the router to allow network connectivity, and then you can connect. So this will be like connecting your device to that network for the first time.
Disconnect. Button.
You can disconnect if you want.
Share. Button. Share.
You can share this network, and if you click on this,
Verify that it's you. Tap to cancel authentication.
it will ask you for authentication. You put your fingerprint.
Authenticated. Share Wi-Fi.
Let's explore the shared Wi-Fi network once you have authorized it.
Share. Scan this QR code with another device to join.
If you
Alliston
want
Pinto
to
_router
instantly
5GHz.
connect to this network, you can scan the QR code with another phone and join this network. And then under that, the password is given, which is in
Nearby.
very
Button.
clear text, or you can even do a nearby share. So that is the share networks.
Settings. Share. Signal strength. Good. Signal strength.
Signal strength is good because I'm very, very far from the router, almost 2 rooms away from the router. So the signal strength is not the strongest.
Frequency. 5 gigahertz.
This is the frequency.
Security. WPA. WPA2 personal.
I would
Security.
recommend that you use, if you have not used a security on your router or Wi-Fi, and if you have this at home, I would recommend that you use WPA2 PSK, or if you have a brand new router, or if you want to upgrade, if you are planning to upgrade a router, you should go with a WPA3 PSK. This is the newest standard of security. I would recommend that you go with that.
Network usage. Detect automatically.
This is the network usage. So how are you using the network and what all you're doing on that network, and accordingly it will allot the bandwidth. So this is detect automatically. Let's click here and see.
Pop-up. Settings. Out. Connected. Forget. Disconnect. Security. Network usage. Pop-up window. Checked. Detect automatically. Settings. Network usage.
For some
detect
reason,
automatically.
this settings is just closing. So I don't know what is the problem.
Privacy. Use randomized MAC default.
This, if you want to be private on the network, you can use a randomized MAC, but do be aware that some ISPs have a limit of registered MACs in their list of connectivity, and if you use a lot of random MACs, then you may just hit the limit, or there may be some problems. So it's best to ask your ISP if you should enable this option.
Auto connect. Allow connection to this network when in range. On. Switch.
This you can turn on or off. If you are on an unknown network, I would suggest that you turn it off because it's for security reason. But if you're in a home network or office network or some known networks, then you can leave it on. It's on by default when you connect.
Add device. Use a QR code to add a device to this network.
Again, it's the same thing as share network. You can add another device to the network using QR code.
Network details. Heading. Network
This
details.
is all the technical details. We'll just skim over them.
Type. Wi-Fi 5. Type.
So type is Wi-Fi 5 because it's a 5 gigahertz.
Randomized MAC address. 96.
That is
IP
the
address.
randomized MAC.
192.168.0.144.
This
IP
is not
address.
public IP. This is the IP that your router has given you. So it's okay. Under the under your IP, the next option is your gateway. This will be the default IP address of your router.
Subnet mask. 255.255.255.0.
This is a standard
Subnet
subnet mask.
DNS FE806263 CFF FEAC A611% WLAN 0.
This is using an IP6 for DNS. And again, the gateway will be your router's IP address at the end, or it depends on the ISP. Some ISPs use Google DNS, some ISPs use their own DNS. Another recommendation, and I know this is not a Wi-Fi podcast, but if you want to see real high speeds in networking, and if your ISP does not use Google DNS or Open DNS or whatever, you should change to Google DNS. The DNS address is primary DNS address is 8.8.8.8, and secondary DNS address is 8.8.4.4. What happens is the ISP's DNS gets overloaded. They do not have enough bandwidth, so you get slow network or slow site loads and all at peak time.
Screen off.
And
Ringer
Google
silent.
has a lot of bandwidth, so you get pretty amazing results. Sometimes not so amazing results, but sometimes amazing results. So you need to play with it. Before playing with this, take a backup of your router.
Transmit link speed 390 megabits per second.
This is your transmit link speed. This is how much data your device can transmit to other devices in the network.
Receive link speed 351 megabits per second.
So this the speed that other devices can send to your device. It depends how strong the signal is, and also depends on the frequency. If you use a 2.4 gigahertz network, it should be around 54 to 58 to 80 around. But 5 gigahertz will give you a lot, and 6 gigahertz will give you even more.
IPv6 addresses. Heading.
This is IPv6 addresses.
FE80.
So that is it from the Wi-Fi window, and this is the demo on how to manage your Wi-Fi network. I hope you have enjoyed this demo and hope these tips that I've given you will be useful.
Thanks, Austin. I've got to say, I don't like what Google has done here. I said this last week, I think. I don't think the labels are as helpful as they could be here. I would have, I think, something like Wi-Fi right up front on my network and internet screens. I wouldn't bury it in internet. I think it could be a lot more helpful and user friendly than it is. But that's just my view.
You know, you're right, Ed. Like I said last week, I think what Google fails to do is the fact that they fail to keep things consistent. So you're kind of getting used to something. And in the next iteration, things get changed or get regrouped. You don't expect people to always have to learn something new again. And I wish they stopped doing that. But I totally understand what you're saying.
Now I'm going to show you various settings relating to SIM cards, and particularly the SIMs setting. I'm Ed Green, and in this demonstration I'm going to show you settings related to your SIM card in the Network and Internet Settings category in Android 12. I'm doing this on my Sony Xperia 1 Mark III. I have installed two SIMs for the purposes of this. I have a dual SIM phone. There are important settings relating to your SIM card, even if you only have one SIM. I think it makes the settings window look more interesting though, and it'll show you the potential if you do have a two SIM or a dual SIM phone. I've previously demonstrated installing an eSIM on our YouTube channel. Go take a look at that if you're interested. This phone is not an eSIM enabled phone, it is a dual SIM, physical SIM phone. So the first settings category I'm going to show you isn't actually SIMs, but it is
calls and SMS, Vodafone, preferred, gift of. Double tap to activate.
So this is the calls and SMS category in your network and internet settings, and you'll see it slightly mangled the speech, but I have two. I have Vodafone and giffgaff. And I suppose we could start by thinking about why you might want two SIM cards in the same phone. Why might you want to take advantage of your phone's dual SIM capabilities? Well, I think there are two main reasons. The first
DJ Edward started a closed
and most
room. From
obvious
bits and
one
pieces.
is
Speak with them.
probably if you have a personal SIM and a business SIM, so you've got a personal line and a business line, and you want to have them on the same handset. This will enable you to do it, a dual SIM phone, very easily. The second is probably if you travel a lot. You might have two locations and maybe network coverage on one network isn't great in one of them. So you have two SIMs in your phone. Perhaps a more obvious use case is if you're travelling internationally and you might either want to put a local SIM in that second SIM slot, or maybe you have one of those international global SIMs which offer you cheap calls and data rates around the world. So we're in calls and SMS. I'm going to double tap on this.
Settings. Calls and SMS, out of list. Navigate up. Button. Calls, Vodafone, preferred, gift of, and list.
So let's go in here and see what we have.
Calls, ticked, Vodafone, and list.
So Vodafone is my preferred network. You can hear that. I also have
Gift of. Double tap to toggle.
giffgaff is my secondary network, but in calls at least I have
Ask every time. Double tap to toggle.
So you could literally have it ask every single time. And if you go into your contacts, I believe you can set it so that you can have contacts associated with different SIMs. So different contacts will be called on different SIMs. But you can, if you like, for the avoidance of doubt, have ask every time. I'm going to back out.
Navigation bar, back. Settings. Calls, Vodafone, preferred, gift of, and list. SMS, Vodafone, preferred, gift of. Double tap to activate.
And this option is which is going to text you. It's the same, except that there's no ask every time option. So I won't go into here, there's not much. But yeah, you don't have an ask every time option for SMS text messages.
Navigate up, button, out of. Settings. Calls and SMS, Vodafone, preferred, gift of, and list. SIMs, Vodafone, gift of. Double tap to activate.
So SIMs was the main purpose of this demo.
SIMs, Vodafone, gift of. Double tap to act. Settings. SIMs, out of list. Navigate up. SIM, heading, and list. Vodafone, active / default for mobile data, calls, SMS. Double tap to activate.
So Vodafone, as you can hear, is active and it's my default SIM.
Gift of, active. Double tap to activate.
And the giffgaff SIM is not default for anything, but it does work. And that's it. And that's important because what I'm going to show you now is quite cool. I'm going to go into the Vodafone SIM just because it's active.
Vodafone, SIM, heading. Vodafone, mobile network. Vodafone, out of list.
And we'll explore what's in here and I'll tell you why it's cool in a minute.
Navigate up, button, SIM name and color. Use SIM on switch and list. 19.85 GB used. 0B. 19.85 GB. 4 days left.
So it shows us what the consumption of data is on that SIM. Quite handy if you're capped. I don't think the 4 days does actually relate to my monthly billing cycle. I think my phone's decided when that should be. No doubt I could go in there and have a look or change it somewhere else.
Data preference. Vodafone. Double tap to activate.
That is my data preference. I don't want to change it. I don't want giffgaff to be my default data SIM.
Calls preference. Vodafone. Preferred. giffgaff. Double tap to activate. SMS preference. Vodafone. Preferred. giffgaff. Double tap to activate.
So those settings categories outside of this are a bit redundant, really. You could change them from within here.
Mobile data. Access data using mobile network. On. Switch. Double tap to activate.
And this is the first reason why this is quite cool. So mobile data, you'll hear, is on. If I turn it off here, it will only be turned off for this SIM card. If I were to turn it off and go into giffgaff, mobile data would still be on in giffgaff. And obviously, you know, if you have a SIM with a low data limit and you don't want to risk using it, you could disable data on one SIM card and still have it enabled on the other. And this is particularly important for the next setting.
Roaming. Connect the data services when roaming. Off. Switch. Double tap to activate.
Roaming is when you're using your SIM card abroad. That can get very expensive. So it's particularly useful, as I say, if you have a dual SIM use case when you are traveling. Perhaps you definitely don't want any risk at all of data being used on your other SIM. You can turn it off. Data roaming is much more complicated than it used to be, albeit the consumer is still better off probably than they were 15 years ago when data roaming wasn't complicated, but it was very, very expensive. And there was no way around that, and lots of people got huge phone bills running into the thousands. It's not that bad now because there are various caps and usage limits and all the rest of it, but whether or not you're going to get charged for data roaming doesn't just depend on where you're going and your network operator. It might even depend on what tariff you are on with that mobile network operator. Certainly in the UK it does. So EE and Vodafone, on their more expensive tariffs, have more roaming destinations where you can use your allowances for free than they do on their cheaper tariffs. So just watch that. And a bit like with Hotspot last week, we were talking about even where you can roam, don't assume you get all your allowances. So I have unlimited data. No roaming package anywhere, I don't think, will let me use unlimited data. I will be capped out at something like, well, last time I looked, back when I was traveling 3 years ago, it was 12 gig. So don't assume that you have unlimited data, that you will get absolutely unlimited data, even where you can roam for free. Do check the small print. Might be more than 12 gig now, I don't know. But certainly don't assume you can roam unlimitedly. So this is where you can control your data roaming settings. And as I say, you can do it on a SIM by SIM basis, which I think is good.
App data usage. 19.85 GB used January 9th, February 8th. Double tap to activate.
There we are. We can see what our apps are doing. That's where our 4 days comes from. As I say, I don't quite know where it got those dates. I didn't set it. I don't think it knows when my billing cycle is, but who knows? I could be wrong. Perhaps it is aligned to the billing cycle. I should go in and check. But if you do have a monthly data allowance, then here is where you can keep track of it.
Data warning and limit. Double. Settings. Data warning and limit. Out of list. Navigate up. Button. Mobile data usage cycle and list. Set data warning off. Switch. Data warning disabled. Set data limit off. Switch. Data limit disabled. Data warning and data limit are measured by your device. This may be different from operator data.
So I can configure this in here if I do want warnings and limits.
Data warning and limit. Navigate up. Mobile network. Data warning and limit and list. Preferred network type 5G/4G/3G/2G. Double tap to activate.
So it's worth having a quick look in here, and I'll explain why you might want to change this.
Preferred network type. Ticked 5G/4G/3G/2G and list. Double tap to toggle.
That's what I want. It'll essentially connect me to the fastest network it can find.
4G/3G/2G. Double tap to toggle. 3G/2G. Double tap to toggle. 2G only. Double tap to toggle.
And there are various reasons I might want to do that, I suppose. Most obviously battery. 5G will use more battery than 4G or LTE. You might want to do it for that reason. You may have some sort of cap on 5G data consumption. That could be a speed cap, it could be a usage cap, it could be a combination of the two. And what you might find actually is that if your 5G speed is capped, as some UK networks did on the launch of 5G on some of their tariffs, Vodafone I think still does have a tariff where 5G speeds are capped, then in certain circumstances 4G might actually be quicker. So you might be better off turning your 5G off in situations where your 5G speeds become capped after a certain amount of data consumption. So something to bear in mind.
Network heading. Automatically select network on switch. Double tap to activate.
I think you're almost certainly going to want to leave this checked unless you are in a data roaming situation where it's useful to be able to manually scan. But even nowadays, when you're roaming, normally you're better off leaving this automatic.
Choose network. Vodafone UK disabled.
Well, the previous one was on, so I can't choose a network. It's Vodafone, and that's what the SIM is.
Access point names. Double tap to activate.
And we're not going to go into access point names. So that is it. But as I say, the nice thing about this in a dual SIM environment is that you can change those settings on a per SIM basis. So that is a tour of your SIM settings. One thing I mentioned but didn't tell you how to do, which wasn't that helpful of me, is kind of ancillary to these SIM settings. And that is that if you have a dual SIM scenario, you can set your phone to decide which SIM a contact is called or texted from. That's not in the SIM settings themselves, and I probably should have covered it. And you also can't do it from the contacts tab in the phone. You might think because the steps appear to be able to be performed from the phone app as well as the contacts app, it might work. It won't. You need to fire up the contacts app. It certainly works in the Google Contacts app. Maybe it works in other contacts apps on your phone. You pull up the contact, you open that contact, and there'll be a more options button. And in there is an assign SIM to contact. So if you do want a scenario where you want different contacts to be called off different SIMs, you might in the scenario I mentioned in my demo, where you have a business line and a personal line. That might be something you want to do. You would go in your contacts app, go in your contact, go in more options, and there will be a assign SIM to contact option. As I say, if you try and do it in the phone app, there you can go into the contact app and you go into a contact and there is a more options button, but that option won't be there. Now we move to the app of the week, and this week it's from Warren and it's the voice recorder app from JLabs.
Hi. For episode 61's app of the week, I'll be reviewing an app called Voice Recorder. To be sure that I have maximum compatibility for this app, I'll be using my older device in the way of the Pixel 2 XL running Android 11 and Talkback 12.1. For speech services, on the other hand, however, I'll be using another defunct TTS engine, and that would be the Ivona TTS engine from the defunct Bright Voice Technologies. And this is the Kindra voice. It saddens me, however, to say that a lot of the times, developers give generic names to apps that are rather unique and ought to have been given unique names. This app Voice Recorder, in my never-to-be humble opinion, should have been named something like Cassette Recorder or Cassette Voice Recorder. You will understand why I am saying this as I demonstrate this app, but for now, though, there's nothing that sanctifies it by its name. In other words, there's nothing in its name that sets it apart from the crowd. If you go to the Play Store and search for Voice Recorder, even though this app has a 4.8 rating, it is not going to show up in your top search results. I'll now find the icon for Voice Recorder and tap on it.
Voice recorder. Voice recorder. Close.
Upon launching the app, we are immediately placed on the Close button found near the top right corner of the device. Below that, we have an edit field that says tap to enter name, meaning you could give the recording a name here. And below that edit field on the left-hand corner is the save button. At the bottom, we have a total of 4 buttons. Starting from the bottom left, we've got record, start, stop, and reset. I'll now show you the items that I'm talking about, starting from the edit field that it says to tap to enter the name.
Tap to name. Edit box.
There's our edit field of tap to name, you give your recording a name, and at the bottom left corner of that edit field, we have the save button.
Save BTN. Button. Text. Save.
Now going down to the bottom, finding those 4 buttons, starting from the bottom left, we have the following.
Rec BTN. Button.
Record, to the right of that.
Start BTN. Button.
Start, button, to the right of that.
Stop BTN. Button.
Stop, and to the rightmost on the edge, we have
Reset BTN. Button.
reset button. Of course, the record button would do your recording. The start button found to the right of the record button simply sets things in order for the recording. It isn't necessary to tap on that start button to record. However, upon finishing recording, tapping on that start plays your recording. Now to the right of that is the stop button, which does exactly what it says, and the reset button simply gives you that nostalgic sound of the cassette recorder button opening the cassette holder and closing it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll first tap on the start button.
Start BTN. Button.
And listen to the sound. And now I'm going to tap on the reset button on the bottom right corner.
Reset BTN. Button.
There you have it. Now going back to the close button found near the top right corner.
Close. Voice recorder. Recordings. Navigate up. Button.
Tapping on that close button now takes us to a screen where our recordings will be found. To the top corner of the phone, we have settings at the very top right corner, followed by sort by, found to the left of that.
Settings.
And going left,
Sort.
sort. Now below that settings, we have
Recycle bin. 0.
recycle bin. In other words, when you delete recordings or after finishing recording without giving it a name and you simply close out of the app, it will be placed in your recycle bin. On the top left corner, we have the Navigate up. Tapping on that Navigate up takes us to a screen where we could see the different features found within the app. I would like to mention here in passing that in order to unlock every feature of this app, one would need to shell out $15, $14.99. I'll now tap on that Navigate up to take us to where I'm talking about, where we could see all of the features that are behind the paywall.
Navigate up. Button. Voice recorder. Navigate up. Button.
On this screen, we have some buttons near the top right. We have on the far right corner,
Records.
and to the left of that we have.
Share.
Now below, going from left to right, we have Go Premium.
Go Premium.
And below that, on the right, we have
Settings.
Settings, which is more like a heading. Now below that, we have the features that I'm talking about. The first item is a tape deck. These are different types of tape decks that you can choose from different builds and looks and things like that. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Tape deck. Voice recorder. Navigate up. Button.
Down near the middle.
1 of 9. In list. 9 items. Text. Random save auto. Reverse play stop reset rec.
Swiping to the right or moving my finger down.
2 of 9. Text. Save auto. Reverse play reset stop rec.
Keep
3
going.
of 9. Text. Save auto reverse play rec stop.
Next.
4 of 9. Text. Save auto. Reverse reset play rec stop.
What we're seeing here are different models of tape decks that one could choose from. Tapping on any of those, however, you'd be told to make a purchase in order to unlock that. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
Tape deck. Out of list. Upgrade to a premium account to unlock all upgrades.
That's what I'm talking about. I'll now go back.
Tape deck.
And I'll go back again to the previous screen.
Void.
Now below that tape deck, what we have next is the various cassettes that one could choose from. And in this case, we have a total of 42 cassettes. I'll show you some of them.
Tape cassette. Voice recorder. Navigate up. Button.
Putting my finger down toward the middle.
1 of 42. In list. 42 items. Text. NRONO FF a random type A. Normal. Position normal bias 120 a sec.
I'll move my finger down or swipe right.
2 of 42. Text. Normal bias 120 type A. Normal. Position stereo mono 60 audio tape made in Japan T7.
Move my finger down or swipe right.
3 of 42. Text. Stereo mono AET7 audio tape mad hi-fi low noise cassette tape.
And just like the tape decks, these, when tapped on, will take you to where you could buy or unlock the premium feature in order to get that. So now I'll go back to the previous screen.
Voice recorder. Settings. Out of list. Tape cassette.
We continue below to see what other features are found.
Recorder settings.
This is the recorder settings heading, and below that we have
Default file type. MP3.
default file type, and tapping here, there's either MP3 or the .wav format. Below that we have
Sampling rate. 44,100 Hz. CD quality.
the sampling rate. You could tap here and go change it to the sampling rate that you prefer, or leave it on the default if that's what you want. Below that we have
Recordings folder. /storage/emulated/0/android/data/me.labs.voice recorder/files/music/voice_recorder/.
This is where your recordings are located. And by the way, you could choose a different folder if that's what you want. I haven't done so, and I hope that it supports the SD card for those of you with phones that support SD cards, so you could choose to save your recordings on an SD card. And by the way, the app is from a group called JLabs. That's letter J space LABS. Let's move to the next item.
Launch in recorder.
And these are features that are launched in the recording, which you can turn off or leave checked.
Checkbox. Checked. Button click sounds.
The click sounds, and that one is checked. In other words, if you want to hear those retro sounds that you hear when one is using a cassette recorder and pressing those buttons, then leave this checkbox checked. Unchecking it would take away those sounds. And by the way, if you have some side, you could actually see the cassette spinning. Absolutely beautiful and a nostalgic experience. Next, we have
Settings.
Settings. We tap here.
Allow voice recorder to access photos, media, and files on your device. Allow button.
And I could tap Allow.
Select a folder. Acapler Voices.
If I want to change mine to a folder called Recordings, I'll scroll down and find the Recordings folder and tap on it.
Recorders 0202. Recordings 1203-1209.
If I tap here on Recordings,
Dot.
and there's either
Cancel button. Out
Cancel
of list.
or
Choose button.
Choose, which means you could choose that folder. I'll tap on Cancel.
Cancel. Voice recorder settings.
Below that, we have
About.
the About, followed by
App version 3.5.1.
and
Feedback. Provide us with feedback to help us improve the app.
below that.
Privacy policy.
And that's the last thing. I'll now go back by simply going back.
Voice recorder. Recordings.
And I'm back to the screen where the recordings are found. Now, in order to go back to the first screen where we could do the actual recording, I will now need to tap on the settings found near the top right corner.
Settings. Voice recorder. Close.
Tapping on settings brings me back to the very first screen and we hear the word Close. This is the main UI where all those buttons are located. I'll now find the record button found near the bottom left corner and tap on it.
Rec BTN button.
Hi, this is a demonstration for blind Android users. I will now tap on the Stop button, which is the third button to the right.
Stop BTN button.
Without giving it a name or anything of the sort, I will now tap on the second button from the left, and that will be the Start button. That will rewind the cassette and starts the playback. Here's what I'm talking about.
Start BTN button.
Hi, this is a demonstration for blind Android users. I will now tap on the Stop button, which is the third button to the right.
Stop BTN button.
So that is that recording. If I tap on Reset,
Reset BTN but. Pro tip number 2.
that means that recording has been moved to the Recordings folder without a name. If I tap on the Start button, we're not going to hear any playback.
Start BTN button.
And that is the voice recorder, which I would rather wish that the developers had named it cassette recorder or something to that effect.
Thanks very much, Warren. And we close this week with another item from Warren, and it's his highlights from Talkback.
We continue now with our theme of highlights from Talkback. This is installment 23. In our last installment, which was installment 22, we concluded the heading of the one finger back and forth movement. Today, in installment 23, we'll be starting the series on the one finger angular gestures. For this demonstration, I'm using my Pixel 6 Pro with 512 gigs, running Android 12 and Talkback 12.1. For speech services, I'm using the defunct Eloquence TTS from Code Factory. I will now tap once with 3 fingers to activate the Talkback menu.
Talkback menu. Actions and list.
Tapping with 3 fingers activates the Talkback menu. The next item I would like to tap on is the Talkback settings, found just above the TTS settings, which is the second to the last item. I will now put my finger down and tap on Talkback settings.
Talkback settings. Talkback settings. Navigate up button out of list.
I am now in the Talkback settings. I will now, using 2 fingers, glide up, scrolling the page down, find and tap on Customize Gestures.
Customize gestures.
Here is my Customize Gestures. I will tap here.
Customize gestures. Navigate up. Button out of list.
I am now on the gesture customization page, and what I'm looking for here is a heading that talks about one-finger angular gestures. I will now utilize my heading granularity by scrubbing up and down till I hear it says heading.
Links. Controls. Headings.
There is my heading. And now with one finger, I'll swipe down till it says one finger angular gestures or something to that effect.
One finger heading. One finger back and forth heading. One finger angle heading. Showing items 9 to 19 of 54.
One finger angle, and that's the one we're talking about today. Our first item in this heading will be the following.
Swipe up then left. Home. Showing items 9 to 19 of 54.
Swipe up, then left, home. What this means is that when I draw a line upwards or swipe upward with one finger and then curving to the left, takes me back home. In other words, if you have difficulty using the two finger for the native gestures to swipe from the bottom and go home, then you could utilize the screen reader built-in gesture, and that will be the swiping from the bottom of the phone toward the top and curving to the left to go home. I personally prefer using the native OS gestures so that if I wanted to, I could reassign this gesture for something else. As long as the native gestures are available to me as a user, I would rather use the OS native gestures as to using a screen reader-based gestures. However, I understand that we have choices and preferences, and this may be easier for someone than using the native gestures. Also, it should be understood that one could choose to reassign this to something else. For example, if any of these gestures are hard for you and you want to reassign this to a tap or triple tap or whatever, you could choose to reassign that to make it be your navigator home gesture. I will now swipe and curve to the left to go home so that you see what I'm talking about.
Pixel launcher. Home out of list.
I just swiped from the bottom toward the top and curved to the left, and that took me home. Again, you could change this to something else that you prefer. And that concludes the swipe from the bottom toward the top and curving to the left to go home.
And that's all we have for you this week. Austin, where can people pull our cheeks?
So people can pull our cheeks and they can smack our cheeks and whatever they want to do. Contact us at blindandroidusers.com is our email ID. You can visit us on the website blindandroidusers.com. Subscribe to our mailing group, Blind Android Users Plus. Subscribe at groups.io. The links to join our Telegram group, YouTube channel, and Clubhouse will be in the show notes. So do subscribe to everything and let's all make a common Android platform and make this podcast reach to a lot of people.
Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Later.
And that has been another episode of the Blind Android Users Podcast. As always, we appreciate hearing from you. You send those email messages to contact us at blindandroidusers.com. For those My Android Journey stories, we encourage you to send those to myandroidjourney@blindandroidusers.com. Until we see you in our next episode, you have a wonderful day.